I'll just put it in real quick. Thank you.
Looks like we're doing a deck switch. And the blinds have gone up. I'm going to go update that. They're now 10,000, 20,000, they're 3,000 ante. There we go. That might stimulate some action for us. Put a little more heat on the short stacks. Roberto must be up over 800,000 now, I would think, maybe more than that. He's won a number of hands here recently, although he did have a couple hands he had to fold pre-flop, but that was a good sized pot against Dean that he just won. And I think we might have Roberto watching the Twitch feed and commenting on his own play on the Twitch feed, which is fun. And another thing we hope to encourage and we hope to get players doing in future final tables and broadcasts. That would be fun to have the players themselves on the Twitch feed interacting with people in the chat, talking about hands they played, how they're feeling at the time, what their plans are, maybe what their plans aren't, throwing people off. It'd be an interesting way to interact with the people watching the tables and make it a little more interesting. Thanks, Jody. If you have suggestions on things you'd like to see when broadcasting final tables on Twitch, we want to hear about it. There's not much we can do always about the camera setups, the room setups, those kinds of things, though sometimes we can influence those things. But certainly on the Twitch setups, if there's something you'd like to see, we have more space. This next payout area on the left under current blinds, really probably don't need that. Or we'll have a webcam in one of those spots and put a few other things in there. There's lots of other options for ways we could set up this feed. So if you have suggestions or thoughts on how that ought to be done, we're all ears and want to hear them. You can tweet us at blindstraddle or blindstraddle@gmail.com and let us know what you'd like to see. If your room wants to have a broadcast of final or featured tables, we could even do cash game broadcasts, and we certainly will be doing some of that in the future. Have them get in touch with us. Let them know that we're doing this, and we're going to be offering services there's no one else offering right now. If you want someone to broadcast your final table, there's really no one who will come do that for you. There are tours that do it, of course. The Heartland Poker Tour, the Poker Night in America, kind of those tours do offer final table broadcasts. But if you're just running a big event and you want someone to broadcast it for you, there's not a lot of good options out there, and we want to be that good option for your local poker room. So let them know about us. And 401 Crew 1 asks, why do they not just use RFID? It is cost and expense is accurate, and also hassle. One of the costs of running an RFID table is having someone run it. There are not RFID tags in the chips, so the table doesn't know, and the software doesn't know how many chips are in front of people. It doesn't know when players move seats, so you have to keep people in one spot. You have a sometimes fragile table. You have decks that are about $100 or more for each deck, and you do wear those out if you use them all the time. So it can be a significant expense to just supply the table with cards and then keep the table running and have a tech person who can handle the table. Yeah, it can be a lot of work for a room to maintain a table like that, and just to have the table off to the side and then use it periodically when you have a big event sounds like a good solution until you realize that the most expensive retail space in the world that you can rent is that in a casino. So where do you store the thing? Casinos are like giant airplanes. Every square foot is precious to them. It's all planned out. It's all got to be done just right. Their expenses are very high, and their income per square foot is very high to cover those expenses. And having an RFID table take up space that you're not using isn't very practical and will be frowned upon by the people running the poker room and or the casino. So if you have one of those tables, usually you have to be using it fairly often, and then you have to have a person who knows how to use it. And if you're using it often, then you've got the expense from the cards and the expense from the person who's handling the tech side of things. But we have a raise and a call, and then a re-raise, it looks like. Dean raised from under the gun. Roberto called, and Stefanski has made a big 3-bet. Stefanski really seems to me, anyway, to be playing really well. He's taking those opportunities. He's winning almost every hand that he plays. He's aggressive in the right spots, and he saw that there was a lot of money in that pot. When Dean raised, it doesn't mean he has a big hand. It means he has a big stack. And when Roberto calls, it means he probably doesn't have a huge hand, or he would have 3-bet. And there's a lot of money in the pot, so Stefanski saw a chance to steal that and did so. He's playing just tight enough to get respect when he does those things, but just loose enough to steal pots and chip up. He has not won a big pot with a showdown since we've been at this table, I don't think, but he's really done well in not having to go to showdowns. There is a delay on the stream. And I'm not sure what it is, but it's not that long. A couple minutes probably. I know that when Molly lets me know that she's popping on the stream, that I see her not long after on the stream. So there's always a delay on these things. There has to be. There's too much money at stake. But the delay isn't very long. The delay is just long enough that we know the hand will be ended by the time the hand is seen. And with RFID or hole card cams, you have to do longer delays just to make absolutely sure, so that someone in the crowd isn't shouting out, "He has aces, fold," and ruining the play. And the 3 seat, for those of you on the stream, is Brad Yazicki, Y-A-Z-I-C-I. Brad has about 180,000 in live earnings. Which I think is actually, while a very solid number, the smallest Hendon Mob number at the table right now. The other 5 are definitely poker pros and a listed poker pro as their occupations. But Brad is playing well. Maybe a poker pro himself.
Thank you.
And it looks like an all-in from Kaplan, and he takes it down. He didn't put all his chips in, but he did push a stack in and get the all-in button, which is what dealers will ask you to do when you say all-in, is push at least one chip in for the camera so that people know that you've made a bet. Looks like Roberto has a number of fans watching the Twitch broadcast, and the reason he's on his phone is because he's probably replying to many of those people. One person noting that he has more makeup than Revlon. I guess he needs to win this just to get out of debt. And another flop. We have Ezeki finally playing a hand who's been card dead for a little while. And Roberto must have a hand. He knows that Ezeki's been fairly tight. Roberto must at least have a reasonable sized heart. But they have a pair as well. And Roberto leading out, so did he miss his hearts and have to bluff? Or does he have it? My guess is he has it. Maybe not. I guess he doesn't have it. Let's see what that's... so it was the Jack 10 for 2 pair. Maybe Roberto had a pair. He just lost to the 2 pair. Bad river for Roberto, although he may have been called just by the bear Jack if he'd bet the river. If the river hadn't bet a 10. And CSEP 1270 wants to know if we're going to cover the mega stacks. I don't know. We're going to talk to them about this after this kind of little test broadcast is done. And we'll see how that goes. We would like to cover as many events as we can at Foxwoods. I really love the venue. Molly has worked a lot of events there. It's a really fun place to be, an easy place to do coverage. We would like to do that. But we don't have any plans at this point. Has every board had a 10 and a 7 on it for the last half an hour? It certainly seems like it. We get a bet from Dean, and Yuzuki's thinking about it, and he calls. Looks like Dean raised and got 2 callers pre-flop in the blinds. Get a blank on the turn. Yuzuki checks, and unless Dean has a big hand here, he may check behind. I think if he bets here, he's really got it. He's trying to punish potential draws, since there are a lot of draws on that flop. My guess is if Dean bets here, he's probably got a real hand, and he's trying to punish the draws and then check behind on the river if anything comes in. If he checks behind, then he's more likely to have either nothing or the draw. But some players will keep betting here with nothing if they assume their opponent's on a draw, just to steal the pot on the river when the draws don't come in. You're kind of playing all the not draws. So he bets again. Yaziki, like he's thinking about raising. No, he called. When we see a river, that's an interesting river card. Yaziki, if he had a draw, very likely made a pair there. And Dean knows that, I'm sure. I think if Dean had one pair here, he would probably check behind, unless it's a small pair that he feels like he needs to turn into a bluff. If it's ace queen, he may bet it. But as he checks behind and folds when Yaziki rolls over his hand. We don't see his hand there. I'm sure Molly will talk to the dealer about that. We have tried to talk to the dealers about getting them to show those hands that have been shown at Showdown within the flop cam. We also can work on making that flop cam area bigger. And we can also change the size of the stream where we can add that. We can make that flop cam area much bigger. You can see in the stream we have this the black area at the bottom, which has the Foxwoods logo in it. We can put that Foxwoods logo somewhere else and make that flop cam area, that whole bottom of the screen, we could really make that a bigger area so that we can cover more ground on the table with it and see those shown down hands and the hands that are shown after folds. That really makes for a better broadcast and gives us a little more information about what's happening at the tables. So we have an all-in from the under the gun. Looks like there was a raise and a call. That just might have been that was an open from under the gun, an all-in open from Brandon Chambek. Thanks for the support in the chat. We will definitely do our best to get the gig for those Mega Stacks events. We really like doing these things and I really like being at Foxwoods, so we will hopefully be able to do that. And depending on what that all entails, if we can bring our own cameras, we will certainly have a high-end feed. There is more than enough bandwidth at Foxwoods. In fact, the fastest internet I've ever seen is in the tournament poker room at Foxwoods. And I've had the highest available. I've played online poker for a living for a long time. I've seen fast internet speeds, but never one that fast. My upload speeds are almost 60 megs a second, so we could do, with a good computer and good cameras, we could do a very high-end broadcast from that room. It'll be a lot of fun to do. We'll see if we can make that happen. Get a raise from Yaziki. See if he's going to take down the blinds or if Jamie Kaplan will defend here. He's thinking about it. And Kaplan calls. Looks like the raise might have been to 50,000. So I think Kaplan threw in 2 chips there. Pretty ragged board. Kaplan checks and folds. Don't hit that board very often with a queen and 2 3s and no suits on board. So Yaziki is always going to bet there, and he knows that Kaplan is usually going to fold. Production assistant just offered to get me coffee. That's what I need. Could really be sharp on this broadcast if I just had some coffee. We just got a walk. The first walk I've seen in a while. Don't see many of those at final tables. But Kaplan must not have had much of a hand, and his stack isn't very deep. He's probably hoping that he can outlast a couple of the other short stacks before he has to start taking risks. And casino player talking about wishing the clock scroll could move up to the top of the screen and then expand the flop box. We can do all those things. That's not a problem. In future broadcasts, when we have time to prepare, we will do that. This was really a, hey, do you want to do this kind of thing? And it popped up fast, and we didn't have time to do a lot of setup on the Twitch feed. And I'm not in Foxwoods, and Molly's not a Twitch expert yet. So all those things are things that we will definitely make happen. We might put that clock scroll at the very bottom of the broadcast, expand the box, put the Foxwoods logo somewhere else. That might be a good way to do it. And if you're into watching more live poker, make sure to follow us on Twitch and on Twitter. In a few months, you will be hearing about us broadcasting final tables constantly. Going to try a small test. We will be making a produced version of this. This broadcast will be condensed down into half an hour or an hour, and from there we will add new commentary, other things that upgrade the broadcast and turn it into more like a television show. And when we do that, make sure this doesn't break things. If it does break things, then I'll turn it off. I am doing a high quality recording of the Twitch broadcast for a little while. See how that turns out. Hopefully it'll go well. And if it does, then that'll be what we use for the broadcast in the future, and also what we use for the produced show, which will go up on our YouTube channel, and will probably go up on the website for Foxwoods as well, I would imagine. And that produced broadcast should be ready in a few days. You are watching the main event of the Foxwoods Poker Classic. Buy-in was $2,700. First place is $122,000. The total prize pool was $485,000, and they had 182 entrants. That is a big field for a buy-in that big. A lot of players and nearly $500,000 in the prize pool. And a fine-looking trophy, which Molly will probably show us on the next break, to go with that $122,000. 5 of our 6 players are definitely poker pros, and the 6th, Brad Yaziki, in the 3 seat, is either a poker pro or a very strong amateur. He has 170,000 in Hendon Mob winnings and didn't list an occupation, so my guess is he is a poker pro as well. And Brandon Schambach has been just very tight and solid today, hasn't gotten in any trouble, has been, when he's playing, he's won most of the pots that he's played. He's been the tightest player at the table by quite a bit, but he's still surviving. Down to 6 players and he's still alive, and they've been at 6 players for quite some time. We went from 13 to 6 in less than 2 hours, and we've been at 6 for sure more than an hour. There are so many chips on the table now that everybody's being careful, and the jumps are so big now that everybody's being careful. The next jump is $6,300, and the jump after that is almost $10,000. So everyone's being careful. And when there aren't big mistakes and there aren't coolers, it's going to take a while for us to get down to heads up and to finally award that trophy and that $122,000. We have a raise from under the gun by Brad Yaziki. And he takes it down. Bought himself a round of blinds and antes there. Action starts on David Stefanski, who looks like he may play this one. A very respected pro on the East Coast. David's had a lot of success in the past year, and everyone at the table, I'm sure, knows David and knows that he plays well. And he certainly played well today. And a 3-bet from Roberto takes that one down. That 3-bet might have even been all in. Not sure what Roberto's stack is exactly now. I think he's got too many chips to go. I think they both have too many chips for that to have been an all in. I think it was probably just a 3-bet.